Hello, Cindy Olin here with Create Your Own Luck and Love, and welcome to our 5th annual Successful Woman's Guide to Meet and Marry Her Man. And today you guys are in for a very special treat with Dr. Nikki Starr. I'm gonna ruin your last name. Is it? Noche. I was gonna say something else, so I'm glad I asked. Anyway, so if you don't know Dr. Nikki, she is a medical doctor turned transformational life coach, spiritual teacher, conscious relationship coach. Just to share a little bit about her, after completing medical school, she realized, I love this, she had an epiphany where the prescription for a happy, healthy life is conscious eating, self-care, and love as medicine. So she's traveled the world, touching every continent except for Antarctica by 25. And she has discovering alternative healing modalities with various medicine people, and this has also caused her to awaken her own healing gifts and the work that she does today. So welcome, Nikki. I'm so excited you're here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so today we're going to dive into the masculine and feminine. You guys should have been on with the pre-talk before we actually got started today. But I would love for you to just share the definitive differences between masculine and feminine energies for our watchers and listeners today.
Yes, I would love to. So within each one of us, we have masculine and feminine. And as an evolved being, ideally you want to be equal with both, that they're equally balanced and they're equally evolved. When we are entering into conscious relationship and we really want to create juicy, magnetic relationships, it's great if one person embodies the feminine and one person embodies the masculine. Now, it's not 100%, but it's this idea that if you think of magnets, like a plus and a minus attract. So the same, like masculine, feminine come together, they attract each other. So, and it can happen where the female, it's so, and even same sex relationships too, it can work for. But this idea that the woman can even be more of the masculine one and the man can be more of the feminine one. But in order for that chemistry to exist, it's important that each one embodies a different one. And I'm going to share about what the characteristics are, but I also want to share. So there's this idea that like, if you're both in masculine, it's like two bulls, two alphas being like, who's going to be the boss, right? Mm-hmm. And then if you're both in alpha or feminine, it's like two best friends, like let's cuddle on the couch and have some ice cream together, right? But there's no like, but for that like ravishing energy, that's where the masculine and the feminine come together for the magic. And the feminine energy is more soft, surrendered, receiving. The feminine also multitasks. The masculine is more like direct, leading, guiding, calling the shots. And it's actually not multitasking, but more single focused direction. That's why men actually have a hard time multitasking. Like they're like, how do women do all these things at once, And that is a gift of the feminine. And even the way our sexual organs are designed, the woman receives, right? And the man penetrates. So for that energy of the masculine to penetrate you, which is what like all of us women really secretly want, we want to be like ravished by our man. It's so important that our energy is really in our feminine so that that receptive energy can be penetrated.
Excellent. Yeah. And so the masculine single focused, that that energy, the woman, I always call that diffused awareness, where we just have that ability to open up, receive, and multitask, be able to see, the beauty, the flowers everywhere, where he's like, okay, we're getting to from A to B. Um, Achieving goals. So to
Yeah,
speak.
and even actually, you bring that up. I want to add, like, the feminine is often the visionary, and the
Yes,
masculine, like, does the steps to get it done. So even within ourselves, like, when we're like, oh my God, I have this idea, I have this dream, like, the dreamer in us is the feminine, but the one who takes the action every day to do the task to get it done, that's like the masculine within us.
absolutely. And so many of the women, the watchers and listeners out there, they're like, oh, look, I'm a taskmaster. I am doing and achieving and growing and building. So we feel you, we understand that. And, I know there's ways to, you know, embody your feminine, because I think, so many women today are really in their masculine so often, because they're they're building successful companies and in organizations where they're leaders today. And they're I think many women have, I don't want to say lost their way to their femininity, but have maybe disconnected from that. So I would love it if you would share some ways to reconnect with that space
Yeah.
within.
So this is one of my specialties. I work with women. I have a women's program, and that's part of my women's program is about feminine leadership. And this idea that we can still be feminine and be boss babes and, like, have these successful businesses. And part of that is knowing when to be feminine and when to be masculine. And I also want to just put in there that studies have shown that women who are very much in their masculine can sometimes have hormonal imbalances. So it's actually important for your health to take time to soften into your feminine. So some of the ways that we do it is in the non-doing energy, literally where you take time to do nothing. And I know that's so hard for a lot of us successful women because we have never-ending to-do lists. But literally where you take time to be like, okay, like and you even, like, are really connected to your body, and being in your feminine is being more in your body. Being in your mind is being more in your masculine. So things like dance, stretching, but things that are pleasurable. It's not about, like, let's go work out and do, like, a big cardio training. No, that's going to increase your testosterone. You're going to want to go and get a massage. You're going to want to take a warm, hot salt bath. You're going to want to activate your senses. So, like, smells through essential oils, delicious food, really even caressing yourself. So there's some embodiment practices that I teach that's really about, like, how you can find the pleasure, even like pleasure meditations, even masturbation, right? So getting more into the sensual and erotic part of our being is really connecting to our feminine part. And this too really helps. So anything that literally you want to lose your mind to soften into your feminine. And the way you can do that is to get more into your body. And through the senses is how we can, in a pleasurable way. So even, like, and having beauty around us and not having any to-do lists. And that's and I would say, like, you want to at least, like, at one point in your day or multiple moments in your day, do that. Then you're going to see, like, a significant change in just how you're showing up and how your energy is showing up.
So, like, what I'm hearing you say is, doing things that stimulate your senses and have you connect with your body. Maybe, when I heard you say food, so possibly, just, it's like savoring, like enjoying every moment of that, that morsel of chocolate or whatever it is, right? Or essential oils too can, open that up. Um, what are and you mentioned dance. What about yoga? Does that support getting into the body too?
It depends on the type. So if it's like a hardcore vinyasa class, it's going to activate more of your masculine because you're in competition with yourself to hold the poses. But if you're doing a yin style practice where you're literally holding the same pose in a deep stretch and you're sitting there and you're breathing, it actually requires you to surrender. So that kind of yoga, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Also meditation. But I would say more like meditation can go either way. I would say more of a dance meditation where you're not dancing to like look cool or like you're in a club. You're dancing more to like feel your body and you're allowing the music. So you're really listening to the music and allowing the music to guide your movement. So it's also a different style of dancing and really getting into the hips and really doing hip rolls because this also activates your feminine areas as well.
And yeah, that's excellent. So just to really, just can, what I'm hearing is just like move feelings through you too, because oftentimes as women, we can easily get stuck in our heads, just from all the to-do-ness and, from being in that masculine energy.
Exactly. And what happens is women, we're so strong-willed, we literally can work through pain. We could work through the emotions, meaning like just be so focused on the task. Our bodies could be in pain and we're like, I'm getting it done, where it's like, that's not a feminine way to like lead your life or your business. A feminine way would be to listen to your body and honor your body and really be working in a way that's nourishing and feels good. So at the end of the day, you're not depleted, but rather you feel alive. So really preventing burnout as well.
Yeah, that's excellent. Of course, I think every woman needs to hear that. Um, especially, it seems like especially now, um, with life with so much going on in life and added stress happening with so many people, with having children to take care of and homeschooling, all kinds of things. But so how does, when she's shifting into her feminine and she's doing the things, she's you know stimulating her senses, she's getting out of her head and really into her body space, into her heart space, how does she then communicate from that space to the masculine or to men?
Yeah. So I would say if you're a woman who, let's say, has a super busy schedule and let's say it's date night and you're really wanting to get into your feminine, I would say like less talking and more embodiment. So what I mean by that is even like your movements, may they be so, why do you think like women like paint their nails and they adorn themselves with like earrings and, and you wear like a feminine dress? It's like the feminine has a magic and a mystery that's why like men have fought wars over women. It's not because of the things they have said. It's like their radiance and their magnetism through their energy. So part of what I was sharing of, it is about getting into your body and it is about getting into your heart and stuff. But the truth is it's about the pleasure that you can feel within your body and how that is emitted as a frequency. Because when you're feeling pleasure, it's like you're literally walking around like a lighthouse that's like a magnet for men. If you're like tense and tight from your masculine energy and your stress of your work, like this is not that like when you're soft and open and radiating with pleasure, Like, this is like, they go wild. It's like literally, it's chemistry. It's the energy that like you can't see, but you can feel it.
It,
So, yeah.
you
So I
know,
would say like adorning yourself, being in your pleasure and showing up to your man and even like giving him a look or even like rubbing yourself, like coming and like giving him like a hug and a kiss and really like softening and like almost like surrendering on to him. Like this is going to be such a turn on.
yeah, yeah, just the whole movement and radiance that comes through. It's like it's less talk and it's more embodiment, is what I'm hearing you say
Yeah,
too.
like exactly. And even if we look at like, it's also, it is like the radiance and everything, but it's how you're feeling inside. Like men are more sensitive than we think. They're just sensitive in a different way. So men know like the moment a woman tenses up because they said something, whether they're conscious of it or not, men feel that. So the more open and surrendered and relaxed and in pleasure you are around a man, he can feel that. And this is literally like science. It like causes him to want to penetrate you. But if you're like tense and tight and like even with your mouth pursed, like this is a little bit like, I'm not sure what's going on with her. Like they're reading our body language more than we're aware of and more than they're even aware of.
That is so true. And a man is, a man wants to spend more time with a woman and is more attracted to a woman based on how he feels when he's with her and when he's away from her as well. So there's all of those emotions that come into play. And you're so right. Men are so perceptive and so sensitive to our emotions, and they truly do want to make us happy, and when we're radiating, he feels like he's a part of that.
Yeah. And it's also about us overflowing in pleasure, that there's no neediness energy. Like when I have my clients come to me, they're like, oh, like I'm dealing with my marriage. It's like an issue, or like my partner's been really distant. And they're almost like in this like graspy energy of like, why isn't it working? Like, pay attention to me. And I'm like, that's the opposite of what you want to be doing. That's like repellent. They're like, oh,
I
it's
call it the cat scratching at the door. It's like the animal scratching.
trying to penetrate him. He doesn't
Mhm.
want to be penetrated. He wants to penetrate. So the best thing that we can do is to take care of ourselves, treat ourselves like the lover, literally to the point that you don't even need a man, that him just showing up is like such a gift. It's like, oh, great, you're adding to my life, but I don't need you. The moment you get into that needy energy, and it's happened to me in multiple relationships, and like almost when I like women, we know and we see this all the time. The moment we forget about a guy, he calls us, right? Like it's because you released your energy and it's not penetrating him anymore. So really the idea is focus on yourself as much as possible. Be selfish with your self-care and your self-pleasure and your pleasure, because that too, like with women too, the more you're in your sexual energy, the more sexual you feel. And so activating more of your sensuality, your sexuality and your sensuality, but for yourself. It doesn't mean like if you're dating, go sleep with a lot of people. No, it means just like filling yourself up.
So doing things like what you mentioned earlier, like taking the salt bath, like giving yourself pleasure, and getting those massages, and all of the ways that you can think of. This is what I'm hearing: to love yourself up and fill your own love cup.
Exactly. And to treat yourself like the lover. So like you have this standard for how you expect a man to treat you. Because that's what happens when, like I get a massage once a week, like I get my nails, like I have a standard of living. And if a guy didn't meet that, it's like he can't be in my life. Like I live a certain way and you need to like match that. And if you don't, then that's okay. It's just not a match.
Right.
So the way you fill yourself up and love yourself is going to be the way someone else meets you.
Got it. Yeah. That is, I'm sure all the women here go, oh, yes. It's like, and, it's kind of like, by doing, by treating yourself this way, you're teaching others energetically how to treat you.
Exactly.
Show up for you.
Exactly.
So, so what about, let's just say she's, you know, getting ready for a first date with a man, and or first meeting, and she's nervous. What are some ways that she can get out of her head, because so many women get nervous or get in their head or put so much pressure on themselves, and while they're dating, how can she get into this space where she's in flow?
Well, I would say first and foremost, it's like do it for yourself. So it's like getting ready for yourself. Wear the thing that you would love the most. Like you're not even doing it for him, like you do it for you. So you wear the shoes that you feel the sexiest in. You wear the dress that you feel, and also that's comfortable, that you feel good in. And because if your confidence is so high, and also feel like really embodying your queen energy, like whatever that means to you, like calling upon the queen that you are, and remembering your worth, and like, because you are worthy, you're worthy of everything. And so it's not even about that. It's just like remembering how much you have to offer, that anyone would be like lucky, like you're lucky you get to hang out with me, like you get to be on this date with me, And with that, even just seeing it like as an opportunity to get to know yourself, to get to know someone else, and the reflection, like, because that's what dating is. Like dating can help you get to know yourself, like what you like, what you don't like. And if you look at it as more of like a game and like just an opportunity to know yourself better and meet someone new, and not have the pressure, like, is he the one? And just more of like,
right, see the gift in the connection, and see the growth, and like you shared, oh, I really like that he did this, I haven't experienced this before, or oh, I noticed this thing just doesn't really work for me, whatever it is. And I feel like we oftentimes, I know, I work with so many women, and I know you do too, they'll be in such a race to get to the finish line that they're not really embodying all this important stuff along the way. So yeah.
And I would add to that too. I would say like just living in the moment. And also one of the things in one of the modules of my women's program that I just do my best to embody as much as possible is, I like to work with archetypes and like goddesses, like different goddess energies, because they help us embody it, different aspects of ourselves. And Aphrodite was the goddess of love. And I'll just share briefly like about her myth. And her myth was that she had so many lovers, and she just like exuded this essence that would make like the animals want to mate when she walked by. Like she inspired so much love in everyone. And they would often find her bathing in the seas and the ocean, and it was her way to purify herself. And she had so many lovers, but she was the goddess of love. So she had so many lovers, and she still loved so much. It was like she was overflowing with love. And it was this idea that she like cleansed herself, so that every time she loved, it was like she was loving for the first time. So imagine if we went to every date, every first date, as if we were loving for the first time, that there was like no history, no past with anyone else. Like, how would you show up? And that could be a fun game too.
Right. No limitations, like just seeing what's in front of you, going with this blank slate, having that cleansing and going in just open and ready. It's almost like having that childlike essence about you.
Exactly. And innocence.
Yeah, really, so much so. And when I think a lot of women get confused around communicating with a man in her, in her feminine, and they'll start to get in their head like, oh, did I say too much? Did I do too much? Am I leading him? And, I want to talk about, really getting clear too about what you are seeking so that you can embody that within a connection with the man too. That's different.
I know one of the things we mentioned on the pre-call, we both mentioned of how, you never want to tell a man what to do. It's emasculating.
Yes.
And I've had to learn this the hard way. And there's still moments, even when it comes to just men in everyday life, not just like romantic partnership, right? And in the sense, it's like, we don't want to really tell anyone what to do, but I also think like, I really honor the masculine. It's a journey though that it's been on, because there's been so many things that have happened to so many women, and there's like this underlying like anger at the masculine, and I really think doing a lot of healing work around that to really respect them and how they're unique and different from us. And there are ways that we can absolutely emasculate men, and one of the things is like cutting them off. Like, when women have conversations where like we go back and forth and we're like, oh yeah, da, da, da. And every time we interject, it like adds to the fire that we're like creating together. Men have a one-track mind. You interrupt them, they forget what they're saying. So for them, it's like, oh, like it's literally like you cut off their energy flow the moment you cut them off. So really listening to a man like helps with communication so much. So if you ask a question, give them extra time to answer, because if he says one sentence and then you cut in, he probably had more to say. And so I would say anytime you're asking questions, like give them the space to share and just listen and receive and receive. And even like waiting a little bit longer than you would normally say something could make him feel really heard and like open him up a lot more. And I would say same thing of not telling what to do. Like even saying like, let's go eat. No, like be like, I'm hungry. Like, like how can, or I would love to do this. Like, what do you think? Not like, let's do this, or you know what I mean? So it's more of like, you just like sharing. And I have found that has worked better for me than being the boss. And
right, it's just a simple shift of the languaging. Really, it's inclusive too. And as women, you're so right. Like I always, when I share about that with my clients, it's like, imagine us at a brunch, there's a group of women and then we're chatting, we're talking, we interrupt each other, and we, we're just growing. And it's so, it's always fun. It's always a fun-filled, sparks of conversation, and we can interrupt one another and then go to a different subject and then turn around and make it back to the original topic. Men are so single focused that makes them dizzy. Literally, they're like,
And even our brain is very different. The brain of the feminine is very different from the brain of the masculine. Our hormones are different. And just like we want them to respect us for, we're being emotional creatures, I think it's important to respect them for how they're different. And it's like, thank God they're different. Like we don't want, like, at least the women who are on here probably are not wanting to date other women. And if you are wanting to date other women, that's fine too. And even still, very feminine women may go for more masculine women when there is same-sex relationship. Sure. So
it works the same way.
Polarity. Yeah. It's the polarity that really creates attraction. So we don't want to date our clone or our twin. Like that wouldn't create sexual attraction.
Right. So how do you we were talking about on our pre-talk. I know you guys, the pre-talk sounds so interesting, doesn't it? It was great. And about like becoming really clear on the type of partnership you want. And so many women, we're so used to leading everything in our lives. And there's all of this relationship advice around lean back, let him lead, and, all of that. I would love to hear what your thought process is around that too.
Yeah. So one of the things when I do couples coaching work or when I'm working with women is women individually, I often say like clarity around what you want. Clarity around what you want is one of the best ways to help manifest it into your life. And I have found that a lot of women don't even know the kind of relationship they want. Like some women might want a man who is like in a more successful position with career or a more powerful position with a career. And other women might want to be more of like the breadwinner because they are like super successful and they actually want their man to be a support within their business and their lives. So there's no right or wrong. It's just like, what do you really want? And really feeling into like, okay, if I woke up every day, what would be like my ideal lifestyle? Like, how often would I be seeing my partner? Do I actually need that time separate? So I want him to have a job where he's outside of the house. Or is it that I want him to be also someone who works from home or whatever, so we can enjoy our time together as much as possible? Getting clear, taking time to really daydream and feel into it. And then remembering that anytime we're like over controlling, and it's a tendency with successful women, right? Like it worked for us to like do the job that we came here to do. We were like micromanaging and we were running our businesses. So that works in career, but in love, no, it's like strangling the relationship.
Right.
So regardless of anything, you always want, I believe in some things. So that's why I say, like, I feel like with successful men, it's learning energetic agility. When is it time for me to be in the masculine? Because maybe you're better at planning vacation. So you need to be the vacation planner and your partner will go anywhere with you, right? But maybe on like date nights or whatever, or if you want to go on a date, like you really need to lean back and let him plan. And the way you help men to step up into their, especially if you're someone who's controlling the relationship a lot, is you need to like out feminine him, which means like really lean back. Like if he's like, what's for dinner? You're like, I don't know, what's for dinner? Like, like you don't find the solution. You wait and you let him find it.
That's so hard for so many successful women. It's like sitting on their hands, but that is, yeah, I love that. I don't know what's for dinner.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You don't, even though you want to say something, you don't. And what you can do is like drop hints, like you're like, oh my God, I would like when you're driving by a restaurant, like I would love to eat there one day or whatever. And you do your best to like let him know of all the things you like. And hopefully he gets the hint eventually. But you really want to like, but then you have to be happy and give positive reinforcement when he does make the move, not like, oh, you chose this place. Because then that's going to be negative reinforcement. Then he's going to think, well, I can't win. So let me just let her make all the decisions.
Right. He'll shut down and it just disconnects you and it doesn't make him feel like he's purposeful, even in the relationship too.
Yeah. And I would say like over showing our appreciation for all the things they do, because that's their food. Like we want them to show up for us and they'll show up more if we let them know what we'd like. So if you love something your partner does, don't take it for granted and think like, oh yeah, he knows I like it. No, you're going to want to really like be like, oh my God, thank you. Like you really make like a fuss about it, or you really like stop him and give him a kiss and be like, I really appreciated that. Like this for them, like makes them stand taller. Like they feel in their manhood.
Their chests puff out. Yeah. It's so amazing. Yes.
Yeah. So really showing our gratitude so much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Even for the little things.
Yeah, it's so true, that acknowledgement and just showing them. And I think, so oftentimes the ego, and I see this a lot with successful women, their ego can get in the way of like, just like you said, oh, he knows it, or I don't need to acknowledge him all the time. But it's literally like food to him. And as females, I think we're so used to hearing feedback, and especially with each other, we're always like, oh, you're so pretty, I love your hair, this and that, this, we're so used to that piece. And I think,
can you ever get tired of someone telling you you're beautiful? No.
Never. Right.
Exactly. They can't get ever tired of our gratitude and appreciation.
So something that I feel that women, they'll share things like, oh, well, I'm always telling him that, but he kind of like rolls his eyes, or he doesn't, he just doesn't say anything. And what do you have to say about that?
Just still keep doing it anyway. Because the thing is that he's not gonna, especially if he's not like an ego-based fight, he's probably not gonna show, especially if he's not a man that's so much in his emotions. A lot of very masculine men are not very showing of emotions. So he might be like, oh, it's no big deal. But inside he's like, oh yeah, I love it.
Cartwheels. He's loving it. Right. He's like, he's lapping it up. So.
And I even do it with like other men in my life, in the sense, like I even had a friend come recently and he brought me like an orchid. And I was like, oh my God, I love orchid. I was just like so extra excited. And he was the happiest person. And it was just an orchid. But for me, like, I want to celebrate those actions when men do them, any kind of man, and really show like it's their food. They can't get enough.
Yeah. So true. Well, I could talk to you all day long, Nikki, but unfortunately we're running out of time. And I know that you have a free gift for our watchers and listeners out there.
I do. So I have a movement called the Ultimate Woman Uprising. And the free gift is a cheat sheet, and it's a 5-step guide to 10 times our love, money, success, and radiance right now. And you can get that at ultimatewomanuprising.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And ladies and, men, if you're on here too, you can click the link below, grab that complimentary gift. So generous of you today, Nikki. And thank you again for being here. And to all of our watchers and listeners out there, here's to you, and just loving yourself, embodying every piece of you, and, opening your heart to receive